Hi everybody, my name is André Rousseau and I would like to welcome everybody who wants to learn the biggest secret of how to improve your health, stay healthy, and how to lose a couple of extra pounds that many of us have without doing any diet and without fighting your own hunger. We all know, and millions of people around the world have tried it many times over and over again, that diets do never work in the long run, because principle of all diets is try to use your own will, your determination, fight your hunger, try to eat a little bit less and try to move a little bit more. But that does never work because you're always going to lose against your own hunger. In this video, we're not going to speak about that at all. The information that you are going to get in this video is something that has been around for many years. The only thing that I did, I collected it all together because I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. And that was also the reason why I created a website just for that purpose, which is called iloverealfood.com, because I want you to have access to this presentation absolutely free of charge. There is no copyright on any content, including the pictures, so you can download it free of charge anytime, do it in whatever you please. Before we start talking about health and how to stay slim without doing any diets, I would like to share with you my own experience. For over 40 years, I was living according to this principle of mine. You have to spend a lot of time taking care of your health, or eventually will have to spend a lot of time taking care of your illnesses. And I still continue to live according to this principle. That's the reason why, since I was a child, since my school age, I was exercising, I was doing all kinds of sports, I was all the time in the gym. I would use all my vacations in order to do even more sports every single day. And I have to admit that despite those 40 years of doing whatever I could in terms of trying to be in a good shape, I was never really healthy. What do I mean by that? I would constantly get a cold. And it was so normal, it was such a normal part of my life. And because it was from the very day that I was born, that I thought, okay, this is just bad luck. This has to do with my genes, bad genes. So I have to live with it for the rest of my life. I just would regularly get a cold. That's part of my life. And also with the sport, I wasn't, let's say, getting the results that I wanted. And I had my own, let's say, small dream, wish. I wanted to see my abs. That's why I would, try to eat less, move more all the time. But for over 40 years, this never happened. I was never able to see my abs. And now, after almost 2 years on a completely new lifestyle, which is a low-carb lifestyle, I have to say that those two things that I just mentioned, were completely transformed, were completely changed. First was a complete surprise, because as I said, having cold was normal to me, and now since 2 years I haven't had a cold one single time. I was for 2 years cold free. Let's say, this is sounds unbelievable to myself. Every time I think about it and say, okay, one more day without cold, this is kind of strange. This is not me, but this is really me, and this is a new lifestyle. And the apps that I always wanted to see, I got them after 3 months, and I still have them. So I can show them to you, to myself and to anybody every single day. I don't have to have any time for preparing, let's say 2 weeks for going on a diet. I always have them. And now I would like to tell you how I got those results and what does the science tell us. Because everything I tried on myself. And the longer I was doing low carb, the more question I was having. So initially it was like simply, is it possible at all to live without carbs, let's say 1 week? Is it doable? Those were the questions at the beginning. But later I got additional questions because, as I said, I like doing sports. I go to the gym. I was worried. So if I would start skipping any meals, maybe that's a risk for my muscles. So I'm going to lose my muscles, and everybody knows how difficult it is to gain muscles. So I was worried. But whatever I learned, I tried on myself. And today I can tell you that the biggest enemies to your health are modern supermarket food. Yeah, we'll talk about this in detail, what you get from the supermarket, modern medicine, and our cravings and habits, which are unfortunately also come in a package with lack of basic knowledge about nutrition and our own metabolism. So the main success factor for your health, the absolute number one, and if it was a sports competition, let's say Olympic Games, I promise you that the first 3 spots, yes, the gold, silver, and bronze, would go to real food. And only as additional elements, which are also important, will follow exercising, good sleep, and moderate stress. I'm going to elaborate in more detail what real food actually means. Now let's look at things that we shouldn't be eating. And if you look in this picture, I'm sure that some of you will be surprised or even shocked when you see things that you eat at least 3 times per day, pasta, bread, fries, etc. But then you also see fruit. How come fruit? Yeah, everybody loves fruit. But the fact is that carbs, with exception of green vegetables and vegetable oils, except for extra virgin olive oil, are absolutely not good for us. And let's see why. Many people believe that a calorie is a calorie, that it doesn't make a difference if the calorie comes from carbs, proteins, or fats. This is wrong. And this is the reason why we are getting all the health problems and why we are getting more and more overweight, because our body reacts completely differently to different calories. So when you consume a lot of carbs, which 90% of all people in the Western world do, every time you consume sugar and carbs, your blood glucose goes up, and it goes up very much. And your body needs to protect itself. And that's why the main fat building hormone, well, in this case, which is called insulin, comes into play, but with the purpose not to build fat, but to get rid of excess sugar out of your blood. And when insulin works, what happens? Your blood sugar level will eventually go down, and it will go down fast. And in this moment, when your blood sugar level falls rapidly to a certain level, you will feel hungry again. And that's the explanation why, with the typical diet of the Western world, with lots of carbs, people really have to have at least 3 food intakes per day. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner are set. But for many people, it's actually not enough, because they really feel hungry in between, and that's why they also have to snack, sometimes even late at night. So by consuming carbs, you are also making sure that your hunger will come back strong, and it will force you to eat again. And when your insulin level, which always follows your blood glucose level, is high, or it is above a certain level, you will not be able to tap into your own fat reserves, because it doesn't work. So you'll always be living only from the food that you consume, and not from your own energy storage, which are your fat reserves. So, as I said already, diets never work in the long run. And they don't work in the long run exactly because people, when they stay on the regular high carb diet, will always stay hungry. And I consider it completely unfair when people are told that they have to do a diet and do more sports, exercise more at the same time. Because what happens to a person who is already constantly hungry when he goes to a gym? By exercising, he is going to be even more hungry. That means it's a death trap. It's a trap. You are hungry, and you are going to become even more hungry, and you should eat less. That does never work. So that's why when I say with low carb, you're going to be slim without ever fighting your hunger, that's simply because you will be less hungry. So we're not going to fight the hunger, because this battle we will never win, but we are going to change the way we eat, and this way the feeling of being hungry and wanting to eat will just happen much less frequently. So after talking about the negative effect of sugars and carbs on our health and on us gaining weight, we need to take a look on where all these sugars and carbs come from. So nobody will be surprised looking at this picture, so every child knows that all the sweets, cookies, sodas contain lots of sugar. That's not a surprise. But already with the next picture, some people will start asking themselves, yogurt and all the other things. The fact is that the manufacturers of most supermarket products add enormous amounts of sugar to those products for one simple reason. They want those products to taste so good that you become addicted and buy them more and more and more. And sugar is the perfect solution how to make it happen. But the next picture, I think, will be even more surprising to many of you, because when you consume bread, porridge, rice, fries, spaghetti, etc., you don't think about sugar. And actually those products contain enormous amounts of sugar, because that's the way our body works. It transforms those carbs into sugars. That's the way our body works. So every time you say, yeah, I actually don't eat too much sugar, most people would say that when they reduce the number of, let's say, how often they eat things like ice cream or drink sodas, but they completely leave out the fact that bread, pasta, and fruit contain also enormous amounts of sugar, which do exactly the same thing to our health and our body as if it was just the regular sugar from soda. So that's the reality we live in. So our fat reserves, which we all are carrying around with us, so in other words, our bellies, the longer we live, when we age, become bigger. So this is the perfect source of energy that we always have with us, but unfortunately we cannot use it, because every time the time comes to use it, we are feeling hungry. And that's why we are running again to the next bakery, to the next supermarket or fast food chain to get the next portion of carbs delivered to us. And our own fat reserves are rarely used. The only exception for many people is when they sleep. But the rest of the day, they actually live from the energy that they are consuming from high carb food. I understand that when we talk about fruits, many people would say, oh, fruit are healthy. Everybody says they are full of vitamins. Now, I can assure you, first of all, that fruits and slogans like an apple a day keeps doctor away, where, I give you three options, were invented A, by bread industry, B, by drink industry, and C, by apple growers. I guess you know the answer. The problem with fruit is that fruit, except for berries, is always very rich with fructose. And fructose can only be digested by our liver. And if we consume fruit all year round in larger quantities with the diet that is, let's say, the standard American diet, then many of us will eventually get a non-alcoholic fat liver disease, which is a big problem by itself. But non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is also a trigger or accelerator to many other diseases. So eating local, seasonal, organic fruit in moderate quantities is fine, unless, like the bear in this picture, if you are preparing for a very long winter sleep and that's why you need huge reserves, then that would be okay to eat fruit every day. Otherwise, please only seasonal, local, organic fruit in smaller quantities. And it's also important to notice that we don't need simple carbs and sugars for healthy living at all. All the glucose that our body needs will be easily produced from our own fat reserves or from the food which does not contain any carbs by our body. And it will be produced exactly in the quantities that are needed and not in excessive quantities that we are consuming every day. Eat real food. That's the solution. I promised you to tell a bit more about what the real food is. If you look at the examples in this picture, in this slide, none of those products has a list of ingredients, a label on them, because they don't need a label. These foods are the ingredients of a healthy living. They contain all the necessary micronutrients and micronutrients, vitamins, etc., which you need in order to stay healthy, which cannot be said about 95% of products which you find in any supermarket in your area, because the manufacturers of supermarket products, or also fast food chains, coffee chains, bakeries, etc., their goal is not to make you healthy. Their goal is to increase their profit. So they want to sell as much as possible. And if you eat only from supermarket and if you don't eat real food, the fact is that you're actually eating something that could be called food garbage, because this is definitely making you unhealthy and is going to make you fat in the long run. So summarizing, we can say that the main causes of modern chronic diseases, of us gaining weight and of a weak immune system, are sugars, including fruit and artificial sweeteners, those carbs which are called nothing but calories. Those are bread, pastas, rice, potatoes, porridge, etc. The next problem for our health are vegetable oils and fats, with the exception of extra virgin olive oil. Why are vegetable oils so bad for us? They are full of omega-6, and in all the supermarket products, all the vegetable oils which go into production of those products are always the cheapest of the oils, and these are always the cheap vegetable oils, which, as I said, is full of omega-6, which cause inflammation. So all the inflammation that we have in our body, it is very often caused by very high consumption of omega-6. So example would be mayonnaise, French fries, popcorn, etc. We need a balance between omega-3 and omega-6. And the only way to find this balance is to drastically reduce the intake of omega-6. And last but not least, alcohol, smoking, and drug side effects are also a very negative factor which impacts greatly and negatively our health. And because the food industry knows that we consumers, especially over the last years, want to reduce the number of sugars that we take, because many people know that sugar is unhealthy for us. They use all kinds of tricks. And one of the tricks is that they use ingredients and names that even if you read a product label, if you are not very well prepared, you will not be able to recognize that this product actually contains a lot of sugar. And there are numerous studies which show that low carb diet is very, very important for our health, and that high carb diet actually damages our brain. Yeah, and that it's another reason for people who strive for being healthy, even when they age, especially healthy in terms of the brain, to greatly reduce the number of carbs that they eat with the regular diet. So how about fats? First of all, let me say that our brain consists of 60% fat. So eating fats is very important. But when we talk about healthy fats, you can take them, eat them as much as you like, combining with them with proteins, green vegetables. It's all healthy. The problem starts when sugars and simple carbs become part of the game. Because when you eat simple carbs or sugar with healthy fat, what happens? Exactly the same thing happens as when you just eat, for example, a piece of bread. Your sugar level will go up, your insulin will follow, and because you have consumed so much, let's say, energy combining carbs and fat, so your calorie intake was even higher if you, for example, ate bread with butter compared to just with bread. And if you don't have the opportunity to use this energy or store this energy right away as glycogen, it will go into your fat reserves. So eating carb by itself is unhealthy, and combining sugars and simple carbs with healthy fats doesn't make it healthier. It's actually making the problem even worse, because you are going to store even more energy for the future. So another question that many people would have is cholesterol. And if you look in this picture, you're probably wondering, what do firefighters and cholesterol have in common? Let me explain you why I have used this picture in this slide. Modern studies, yes, have undoubtedly shown that not the cholesterol is damaging our arteries, but the sugar. So the more sugar you eat, or a high carb diet, the more you are going to damage your arteries. What cholesterol is going to do, cholesterol is going to come and will try to rescue you. So it will use its own body to close the damage that you have in your arteries so that you can continue to live. So this is basically the reason why I have used fireman to compare it to cholesterol, because every time you see a fire somewhere, you are going to see also firefighters. And then the conclusion that all the fires around the world are caused by firefighters is same wrong to say that cholesterol is going to kill you or damage your arteries simply because you find cholesterol in your arteries. Because also the fires are not caused by firefighters, but the firefighters are the ones who are rescuing people who get in problems. Healthy gut is extremely important for our health. And whatever you are going to put into your mouth will eventually end in your gut. And the fact that 95% of the products from supermarket are food garbage still don't have labels on them which say how they are dangerous to you. The same way you find labels on, let's say, tobacco products is not going to prove that those products are actually healthy in the long run or in the short run. So please take care of yourself and of children, because children cannot read labels even if they were warning labels. And you as a parent or a grandparent have to take care of yourself, but also of people who need your help, because you are grown up. You have to help the ones who need your help. And when we talk about real food, we also said that real food contains all the necessary ingredients, essential amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, micro minerals, etc. So knowing which product contain which of those essential elements which are going to make you healthy is very important. And only products without labels on them contain those macro and micronutrients in large quantities. But still, if you are older, you already have health issues, problems with stress, etc., you better check up regularly your let's say, do tests with a doctor who can tell you if you lack any essential vitamins like vitamin D, omega-3, etc., in order to stay healthy. Every person who is seriously considering doing low carb in order to become healthier or stay healthy and be slim will eventually encounter information about fasting and how fasting is beneficial to your health. And fasting is indeed a great tool to lose weight without losing muscle, which is very important for people who, want to keep their muscles, which they, get with hard work in the gym. So if you fast just, one day, 20 hours, something, nothing will happen to your muscle. The only way to lose muscle through fasting is to fast for several days. And fasting is also very important as a natural process of cleaning out your damaged cells, regenerating new ones, and slowing down aging. So here are my, let's say, recommendations when it comes to fasting for beginners. And my recommendation is very, very simple. Don't eat if you're not really hungry. So how can somebody tell if he's hungry or just has appetite? That's nothing is simpler than that. You don't eat for 30 minutes. And if after 30 minutes you are still hungry, then you can eat. If your hunger somehow has disappeared, it means you weren't actually hungry. And just skip the meal. Yeah, eat only when you're hungry. And when you will try out low carb, then there will be an interesting thing which will happen to you sooner or later, the same that happened to myself. Many people have heard and have tried intermittent fasting, but then you have to make a difference or distinguish between two different approaches. One is if you approach intermittent fasting as a diet or as an element of a diet, means you are staying on a high carb diet. You're going to consume bread, pasta, etc. as you did before. Then it's going to be a struggle between you and hunger. You will be, let's say, fasting for 16 hours and only having an 8-hour window when we can actually eat during the day. If you're doing it without changing your diet, it's going to be same as all the other diets. You are going to lose a couple of pounds for a certain amount of time. The diet will be over and your weight, which you have lost, will come back to you, and sometimes even more than it was before. When you, however, go for a low carb diet, then you will be experiencing a completely different situation. It was also a big surprise to me, a person who has never skipped a breakfast for 4 years. I would never ever skip breakfast when I wasn't aware of low carb advantages. So I would always have my breakfast, and when I learned about low carb, at some point after I tried it, I realized that I wasn't hungry and I wasn't on any intermittent fasting at that time. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to skip this breakfast, because at that time I already read and had the information that I'm not going to lose my muscles, which was my main concern, that skipping a meal would in any way cause me losing my muscles. So I skipped the breakfast. Then a couple of days later, I skipped breakfast again. And eventually I would skip breakfast and lunch. Then there would be days when I would eat 3 times or 2 times. And at some point, there were days where I wasn't hungry at all, and that's why I ate only once. And this is what is going to happen to everybody who is going on low carb on long term. So intermittent fasting, if you're using as a diet, will have results of a diet. If you're going low carb, you don't have to set any targets and any strict rules about how you eat. Just eat when you're hungry, and if it happens to be 3 times per day, let it be 3 times per day. And if it happens to be 2 or once per day, okay, let's go for it, no problem. Also, I would like to mention that low carb and fasting are very, very important for cancer patients. I strongly recommend you to read a book by Thomas Seyfried from the Boston College, or look on the internet for his presentations, because this information will tell you that for everybody who has a cancer, low carb and fasting are very essential. Have to become part of the life. So we have talked about the main health factor, which is real food. And as I said, in any competition, real food would gain all the three first spots: gold, silver, and bronze. But there are also other factors which are important for our health, which will help you to stay healthy, in a good shape, and those are exercising, good sleep, and moderate stress. So when talking about exercising, I'm talking about intelligent exercising. It doesn't make sense to do sports and get sports injuries, which are preventable. So whenever you do sports, try to think before you do. Doesn't mean you have to be afraid, but all the injuries which are preventable should be, prevented by a smart human being. When we talk about good regular sleep, many people are doing exactly the same mistake when they talk about sleep, exactly the same when they talk about calories. So a person who says a calorie is a calorie, so it doesn't matter if it comes from carbs or fat or proteins, and if it comes from a supermarket or garbage food or from your own organic vegetable from your own garden, making the same mistake because they forget that hormones are playing a very, very important role in the way how we metabolize those calories. The same happens with our sleep. So somebody who goes to bed on time and sleeps, for example, for 8 hours is going to get a very different rest, compared to somebody who is also going to sleep for 8 hours but goes to bed at 2 a.m. because also here hormones are very important in the way how our body is going to recover from those 8 hours of sleep, and going to bed on time is very, very beneficial. When we talk about our health, we cannot not touch upon another important subject, which are the modern medicine and the modern patient. There is a problem with the way how many of us think, and also the way how we're looking for solutions. Let's take the example of diabetes type 2. Everybody knows it's a metabolic disease caused by a high carb diet. And you can actually reverse this problem, this disease, especially if you act quickly in an early stage by simply eliminating those carbs which have caused the problem in the first place from your diet. But what do most patients and most doctors go for as a solution? They will prescribe you insulin and pills so that you can keep your old diet, which caused you all the trouble, but now you will have to take the medication with all its side effects. So let's say the vicious cycle that most of people who eat according to the standard Western or American diet is that they consume a lot of carbs and they are constantly hungry. And they are not lying. This is completely true. Because sugar goes up, insulin follows, then blood sugar level falls, and the person feels hungry. And the person has to snack, the person has to run back to the fast food restaurant or to the next supermarket or to the fridge and eat something again. And this cycle never ends till the person dies, and then health problems will eventually start, and then the patient and the doctor and people around them, including the pharmaceutical industry, will provide you with a simple solution. And this simple solution is a magic pill. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as a magic pill. All pills come with side effects, but because patients are looking for an easy and quick solution, they are also part of the problem. So what are the conclusions of this presentation? They are three. Number one, diets never work in the long run. You're never going to win against your hunger. Conclusion number two, only a low-carb lifestyle will help you to get rid of constant hunger. You will be so much less hungry than ever before in your life that you will eat less frequently and you will eat less, and that's why you're going to lose those extra pounds if you have a couple of too many on your hips by itself without forcing you, and you're going to stay slim. And you have to eat real foods because they contain all the essential nutrients to help you to stay healthy. So now, with all this information, it's up to you to decide if you are serious about improving your health and staying slim or becoming slim without going on any diets, so you know which direction to go. And now you can think about which are the first small steps that you would like to take. Keep learning. There's lots of very interesting literature, YouTube channels that I recommend to everybody. We are going to learn, make your own experiences, maybe do your own videos in the future, which I'm looking forward watching to. And I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, and remember that real food is the new medicine. Stay healthy. All the best. Your Andrea Rousseau.